Where would you turn? Who would you call if you suspected a toxic or chemical threat was causing harm to your family or your community?
All they did was put a Band-Aid on this. It is not cleaned up.
More than 900 families living in the Niagara Falls, New York community surrounding Love Canal were asking that very real question over 30 years ago.
We want to move when we're still healthy. We don't want to stay here and die.
But they had no one to call. The government wouldn't help them. Laws that might have protected them either didn't exist or were ignored. At first, they didn't even know that a threat existed, or that they were living amidst a 20,000-ton toxic waste dump.
I know from my own family experience that there are other children in this area that are not even in danger, but are damn right out dying.
And yet, out of their determination, out of sheer necessity, a community of ordinary Americans became empowered and started this nation on a journey. That journey continues today and is led by the organization born out of Love Canal. The Center for Health, Environment, and Justice is the place where families and communities suffering or suspecting toxic or chemical threats can and do turn for help.
30 years later, why should we care? And people think things have been fixed 30 years later. 30 years later, we must be doing something different, right? I mean, that's what people think. And the truth of the matter is, we're in a similar position 30 years later than we were when I got involved with Love Canal.
If Love Canal leader Lois Gibbs gave birth to the movement that seeks to prevent harm caused by chemical or toxic threats, then the center, which she founded in 1981, has become the mentor of that movement. CHEJ still cares because many families, children, communities, and workers are just as much at risk of harms caused by toxic chemicals today as were Lois Gibbs, her family, and her neighbors at Love Canal over 30 years ago.
I want a reason why.
Lois and her neighbors fought state and federal governments, won relocation from the Love Canal zone. Lessons learned at Love Canal enable CHEJ to empower countless communities, families, and consumers to battle today's Love Canals.
Many people believe that and start out with a trust in government, which is quite reasonable to think that government would be there to protect people. But in fact, government is mostly there to license polluters to operate. What people can do is organize and create a community group that has its primary purpose to address the pollution in their community.
CHEJ does today what no one did for its founders over 30 years ago, mentoring and empowering communities to take in hand local chemical and toxic threats wherever they may be.
What we're attempting to do is to mainly help build a movement. And the help that we bring is that we bring 30 years of experience to the table. And from that 30 years, we've learned a lot of lessons from community groups, just like the ones that we are attempting to mentor or help. If there was no CHEJ, a lot of these communities would really be in trouble.
We are a national organization, and our primary purpose...
Through leadership development conferences, hundreds of groups soon join this new journey. If you do not yet know CHEJ, you probably know its work. Its battles and victories have likely touched your life. CHEJ joined forces with workers and communities across this country to pass the 1986 Federal Community Right to Know law as part of the Superfund legislation. Mentored grassroots and community groups across the country to shut down or block thousands of medical and garbage waste incinerators. Dioxin air emissions were reduced by 77% in the United States.
Can we help you?
Launched the McToxics campaign, which led McDonald's and many other fast food restaurants to remove styrofoam containers. Leading the Safer Schools Siting Initiative, triggering the President and Congress to instruct the Environmental Protection Agency to include school siting guidelines in the 2007 Energy Bill. Alerted the public to a potential risk contained in widely sold polyvinyl chloride toys and shower curtains, giving consumers information about safer alternatives. Since Love Canal, CHEJ has stood on the side of families, workers, and communities against industries that pollute and sell now and investigate any risks later. Dorothy Felix is a community leader who has worked with the Center for Health, Environment, and Justice to prevent harm to her, her co-workers, and those living in the neighborhood surrounding manufacturing plants in Mossville, Louisiana, the nation's leading PVC-producing state.
We are located in the middle of 14 large industrial facilities, including the largest concentration of vinyl production facilities in the U.S. The plants are concerned about one thing, and that's a profit. These plants should be held responsible for what's going on in our area.
Dorothy is just one among thousands who have contacted CHEJ seeking help and direction in their battle against toxic and chemical threats.
Many of the chemicals that people are exposed to at Love Canal are the same chemicals that people are exposed to all over the country. Not always the same chemicals in the same number, not always the same concentrations, not always in the same mixture, but many of the same chemicals. And how government responds to these chemicals and to these exposures is remarkably predictable.
Ron Davis. Is Love Canal over? Well, from the phone calls that I get, no, it's not over. People who are talking about buying property, and only after buying the property to come to find out that it was actually a landfill.
The truth is, children face the same threats today as did those attending Love Canal's 99th Street School over 30 years ago. Today, only 7 states have laws which ban a school from being sited on a toxic or hazardous waste site. The center has been a pioneer on this issue to protect school children, teachers, and workers, testifying before the United States Senate, developing model school siting guidelines, and together with coalition partner Rhode Island Legal Services, surveying states about school siting safety policies.
Nothing has been done over the past 8 years.
Brian Woolley of New Bedford, Massachusetts, still cares about Love Canal because he lived through the same fear and frustration every school day as his 3 children attended New Bedford High School, located adjacent from a waste site where PCBs have been found in the soil.
I went up to the local DEP office, Department of Environmental Protection, to find all information about this field. It was like pulling teeth. I had 3 children that did go to New Bedford High. My youngest was the only one that had some breathing problems when he was at that school. It would get so bad, I'd have to bring him home.
CHEJ has celebrated many victories since Love Canal, but thousands of people across the country live through their own Love Canals every day. The Center for Health, Environment, and Justice exists to stand alongside them, mentoring, empowering, leading wherever called upon.
Getting a call from a Superfund site in San Francisco, Hunters Point, which has already been identified as a Superfund site by the military. The Navy had made a commitment to the community to clean up that site adequately. And what we're getting calls from from organizers in San Francisco now who are working around that issue is the Navy is now backtracking to say, well, we're not going to be able to clean it up to the standard that we initially told the community that we would clean it up.
Love Canal may have started in one place, but that journey continued to Falls Church, Virginia, where the Center for Health, Environment, and Justice was born. Today, this journey continues because the threats of Love Canal are to be found all across this country.
We climbed the gate, and we knelt down and had a couple of prayers.
Perhaps Alonzo Spencer tells the story best. Alonzo first approached CHEJ seeking help in his community's battle against a hazardous waste incinerator in East Liverpool, Ohio. Today, Alonzo serves as chairman of the board for the center.
That building right off from the stack is the rotary kill. That's where the kill is. They can't tell us to this day what exactly is coming out of that stack. And that smokestack is approximately 1,100 feet from this playground. If you organize and you seek out others of like-mindedness, that you can continue a struggle. And I think Love Canal is a perfect example of that. If we couldn't find the answer anywhere else, we could always get that answer from Center for Health, Environment, and Justice. They have backed us at every level. We would have been gone years ago without the assistance of this organization. We would probably just crumbled up and faded away.
I urge every struggling community or group to take a stand to fight off these enemies, because together we stand and divided we fall.
You know, to me, this chemical threat is still real. It could be in your backyard next. So I'm asking you to join the journey and support CHEJ.